This may well be the ultimate master tool watch. Hi and welcome to Last Watch for today's review of the Omega Seamaster Railmaster Coaxial Master Chronometer Reference 220 10 40 20 01 001. That's quite a title and a bit of a mouthful, somewhat typical for any modern day Omega watch, but what does it all mean? Well, hopefully I'll explain that and a whole lot more in today's video. If you haven't already done so, I'd appreciate if you could support the channel and consider subscribing. If you enjoy the review, hit the like button and leave a comment. Omega first introduced the Railmaster in 1957. It was one of a trilogy of watches which also included the Seamaster and the Speedmaster. You may have heard of those. The Railmaster and its reference were somewhat smaller than today's watch. The case measured in at 38mm and had a much simpler reference, the CK2914. The Seamaster reference was CK2913 and the Speedmaster CK2915. All of these watches were tools with specific occupations in mind. The Seamaster was a diver's watch built to survive the pressures of deep water. The Speedmaster, a chronograph to aid racecar drivers monitor their lap times, which would later go on to lap the planet and visit the moon. The Railmaster, as its name would suggest, was for railroad workers, with the movement housed inside a Faraday cage to protect it from magnetic fields, handy for electrical engineers, scientists and even pilots. The Railmaster hid its talents well, possibly too well, as buyers opted for its sexy siblings, and in 1963, after only 6 years, Omega ceased its production. If you happen to have an original Railmaster, you should consider yourself very lucky, as they are a bit of a rarity. Even more so if it has railroad on the dial, and if by some chance you have a Peruvian or Pakistani Air Force Railmaster, then I would love to have it on the channel if and when you take it out the safe. The Railmaster was mothballed for 40 years. Yes, you heard me right, 2 generations slipped by before Omega decided to re-release an updated version in 2003. A chronometer standard movement with a coaxial escapement in 36, 39 and 42mm. This watch adopted an Aquaterra style case but strangely lost its anti-magnetic abilities, possibly due to the fact that it came with a display caseback. Yet again, the Railmaster proved to be unpopular. It's not that it was the runt of the litter, it just couldn't compete with its mature siblings that had a proven history and a loyal support base. Sadly, in 2012, Omega for the second time pulled production of the Railmaster, the only exception being an Invicta-sized variant, a 49mm behemoth with small seconds. I believe that watch is still available from Omega. Just search their website for the Railmaster XXL. If you prefer a big watch, you won't be disappointed. The good news is Omega hadn't given up on the Railmaster. They just took it back to the drawing board for a solid 5 years before relaunching it in 2017 alongside its bigger brothers as part of a 60th anniversary trilogy set, and it didn't look at all out of place. If you're looking for a 3-watch collection, the 60th anniversary set might be all you need. The anniversary Railmaster reverted back to its original 38mm case and shares the Seamaster broadsword hands. Omega, however, had one more trick up their sleeve. They also introduced a more affordable variant of the Railmaster, which is influenced by the anniversary piece but is different enough to have its own identity. Let's get back on track with the star of today's review and start with the watch's dimensions. It has a case diameter of just over 40mm, a lug width of 20mm and a lug to lug of 46.8mm. It has a case thickness including the crystal of 12.6mm. The bracelet starts at 20mm and tapers ever so slightly to 18mm at the clasp. The links are 3mm thick. Size for my 7-inch wrist minus 3 links, it weighs in at a little over 141 grams. The case should look familiar to any Seamaster fans out there, being that it is fundamentally an Aquaterra with included twisted lugs. It has an entirely brushed stainless steel construction, a perfect finish for a watch that expects to be knocked about. What's remarkable is the way that this watch manages to reflect light off its contours and edges. It really is a supermodel with curves. And I've had to check on several occasions that this case doesn't have polished facets. It's a bit of a trickster. The profile is where you see just how sharply the case is cut, with the lugs coming to an almost sickle edge point where it meets the wrist. The brushing on the case sides is noticeably more coarse than elsewhere on the case. The crown can be best described as a cupcake shape, finished on its outer edge with the Omega symbol. There is, however, something missing here, which I will explain shortly. It's a screw-down crown that gives the Railmaster 150 metres of water resistance, total overkill for a railway worker, unless of course you're in the channel and the roof collapses. The crown unscrews with a nice audible click as it pops out from the case, and as should be expected for a watch costing in excess of £4,000, it has a buttery smooth feel whilst winding that none of my other watches can compete with. Pulling the crown to its outer position halts the movement and allows you to set the time. The case is topped off with an ever so slightly domed sapphire crystal. The crystal has been treated with an anti-reflective coating both on its interior and exterior. I've had a few of you contact me about the exterior coating and how durable it might be against heavy contact. All I can say is that I have a Citizen with an external anti-reflective coating, and it's only under macro inspection that you can see blemishes on the crystal. I can only hope the Omega fares as well. Beneath the sapphire is a beautifully vertically brushed black dial. Well, I say black, but that's a bit of a misnomer, as the colour of this dial appears to change with the light. It can look almost matte black, then turn to a nice tropic brown with flecks of white. There are printed off-white, almost grey Arabics at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, a less rounded and more streamlined font than the previous iterations. The hours are defined by cut-out triangles which are filled with a warm golden sand-coloured vintage superluminova. I'm such a sucker for 4 patina. These triangle hour markers differ in shape, equilateral at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, the rest being an elongated isosceles. All these warm-toned monster-like teeth are connected via a train track chapter ring to monitor your passing minutes and seconds, most fitting for a Railmaster watch. Below the 12 we have a very crisp Omega symbol, and below that the Omega brand. Above the 6 we have 2 lines of text stating the watch's credentials as a coaxial master chronometer. All this text is the same off-white as the hour Arabics. In addition, above the 6 we also have a curvaceous printed Railmaster script, like a signature on the dial. This is a gold-toned palette, quite similar in colour to the hour markers. The only other text on the dial are the words Swiss made, hidden in the rail track below the 6. There are 4 very subtle crosshairs radiating from the centre of this dial, reaching towards the Arabics. These crosshairs, like a sniper's rifle sight, are there as a reference to the watch's accuracy. Where these crosshairs intersect is the base for our baton hands. In keeping with the rest of the watch, they are brushed. Their centres, like the hour markers, have a liberal amount of vintage superluminova. The second's hand is a thin brush stick with a lume-filled lollipop, reminiscent of a conductor's paddle or an old-school rail track hand-throw switch. The lume can best be described as a very vibrant jade green. Telling the time when the lights go out shouldn't be an issue. The reverse of the case has a scalloped screw-down crown, totally incompatible with any of my Caseback removal tools, but that's okay because I have no intention of removing it. The caseback is decorated with an embossed seahorse on flat calm seas, a bold Railmaster text and an Omega symbol. Now I'm an Englishman who lives in Scotland, and when I look at this I see Nessie. The water horse is one of many names given to the Loch Ness Monster. Around the caseback circumference we have rather minimal script denoting the watch's bullet points: anti-magnetic, 15,000 Gauss, its water resistance to 150 metres or 500 feet, and Omega's Naiad locking system, which means that this caseback will always be orientated in the 12 o'clock position. I did a quick Google search and it turns out that all the definitions of the word Naiad are water related. The most relevant for Omega is that the Greek translation refers to a female water spirit. Nessie it is then. There are also some imperceptible engravings on the rear of the case, which are easy to miss with the naked eye. I mentioned earlier that something was missing from the crown. The original Railmasters had a letter Y referencing the Naiad locking system. I was a little disappointed not to see this included on my watch. Well, I needn't have worried, as Omega have simply relocated it to the reverse of the lugs. In actual fact, all the lugs have been given some macro detail. The others sport the watch's serial number, the word stainless steel, and a rather intricate Omega design. Hidden behind this ornate caseback is Omega's in-house caliber 8806. It's a time-only movement and a pretty steady workhorse. Or should that be water horse? It is a coaxial escapement utilising a free spring balance wheel and a silicon balance spring. It's a certified master chronometer by the Omega-founded Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology, better known as METAS. I'm not sure how impartial they can be when it comes to qualifying their own movements, but I can attest to the fact that my watch falls within their guidelines and runs just under +2 seconds per day. If your Railmaster runs slow, then I think you're within your rights to have Omega look at its regulation. The 8806 is an automatic movement that can handle 15,000 Gauss of magnetism. It has a 55-hour power reserve and 35 joules. That's more bling than your average Kardashian. I have no idea who the Kardashians are. I'm just trying to be down with the cool kids. The 8806 is quite an attractive movement, sporting Geneva stripes, rhodium finish and a deep red filled engraved lettering. It's the sort of caliber that is crying out for a display caseback, and due to the advancements with modern materials, that should be possible. Omega have stuck to their guns though, and haven't given in to modern fashion trends. A solid caseback harks back to when this watch movement needed to be surrounded by a soft iron cage for protection. They were a necessity. Having a solid caseback now adds an air of authenticity. Like me, you may have gotten this far into the review and thought, what exactly is a Gauss, and should I care about its effect on my watch? Day to day, I would say no. But if you've ever gone through an airport x-ray machine with some trepidation because you were wearing your prized watch and were worried about it becoming magnetised, then allow me to explain what little I know. The average frig magnet has a magnetic field of approximately 100 Gauss. Moving it a centimetre away from the fridge door will reduce its field strength to around 10 Gauss, and it will drop to the floor having lost its pulling power. Basically, the strength of a magnetic field drops off considerably as you move away from it. In comparison, the magnetic field from a microwave oven or even a toaster at a distance of 12 inches is considerably less than a fridge magnet placed directly on your watch. Therefore, it's fairly safe to move around modern technology in your average family home or even your office. The original Railmaster was rated to 1000 Gauss, more than capable of dealing with technology in the 1950s and 60s. Jump forward to the 21st century and the modern Railmaster has been updated to withstand 15,000 Gauss. That's the equivalent of your average MRI scanner that you might find in a hospital. If you're a medical technician that operates that scanner on a daily basis, then your Railmaster should be fine. If you're the poor patient under investigation in the scanner, then even if you're allowed to wear your watch, you'd probably choose to take it off. In layman's terms, a coin with a magnetic field of 15,000 Gauss will be able to lift a 9 kilogram weight from the ground. It's astonishing that the Railmaster can withstand that kind of force. Walking through an x-ray machine at the airport shouldn't be a problem. I am still super cautious though when it comes to any of my mechanical watches. I won't let them rest near headphones or speakers. I suggest you do the same. As it happens, I work around magnetic fields almost every day, primarily satellites. And there have been occasions when I've been slap bang in the middle of some very high powered radar that have had a detrimental effect on the equipment I was using. I wonder how the Railmaster would have fared on that day. Luckily, I was wearing a G-Shock, and the bloody thing didn't even bat an eyelid. Let's get back to the watch, or should I say finish with the bracelet. The bracelet, in keeping with the case, is entirely brushed. It's a utilitarian 3-link affair and in no way ornate. The only decoration is an engraved Omega name and symbol on the clasp. The double push button butterfly clasp releases only on one side of the bracelet. The other side is then released manually. You'll hear an audible click from the retaining ball bearings, which I assume are ceramic as they don't appear to be metal under macro. The milled clasp is designated with its own reference number, build material and omega symbol. The links are held together with quite tiny screws, which in turn hold in place an internal metal pin. I erred on the side of caution and allowed a jeweller to carry out what I found to be quite a tricky procedure. The removable links come in both full and half sizes. Disappointingly, there is no micro adjustment. The bracelet does come with solid end links. I wouldn't have expected anything less. Each end also bears the bracelet reference number. If this watch has any weaknesses at all, then the lack of micro adjustment on the bracelet would be it. Something of note is that the bracelet has a 90-degree restricted hinge on the push button release side. You should take some care when placing this watch in a resting position. Well, I've pretty much explained the Railmaster's overly long title. It's a Railmaster that makes use of the Seamaster Aquaterra case, and it has a Master Chronometer certified movement. It's a 3x master. How many other watches can make that boast? But what of the overly long reference 220, 10, 40, 20, 01, 001? Well, here it comes, so please pay attention. The 220 is the 3-digit code to designate the Railmaster collection. 10 tells us that the watch is made from stainless steel. 40 is the size of the watch case. 20 is broken down to 2 and 0. 2 being the coaxial movement and the 0 being the complications. This watch is a straight time teller and has no complications. The 01 refers to the black dial, and the final 3 digits 001 refer to the sequence number of the model of this watch, this being the first. Have fun deciphering the reference numbers of your very own omegas. The Railmaster is a phenomenal, underrated and somewhat understated watch. Simple, elegant, a subtle piece of luxury that flies well under the radar. That wasn't meant as a reference to its anti-magnetic capabilities, it's just an unintentional pun. It might well be the perfect watch for everyday wear, a tough tool watch capable of dealing with modern day living, travelling and the occasional dip in the pool. A complete all-rounder that won't look out of place in any setting. I really hope it's third time lucky for this timepiece. I opted for this version over the 60th anniversary trilogy Railmaster, as I wasn't a fan of the polished bracelet and case, or its premium price tag. The watch sits well on my wrist, there's no overhang or gaping gaps, the sharp details don't translate to an uncomfortable fit, and there are no unsightly protrusions from the bracelet. I suspect it would fare well and look just as good on a leather strap or even a NATO. This one, however, will be staying on its metal. If you're looking for something more colourful, the 40mm Railmaster is also available with a blue and silver dial. If you're not a fan of faux patina, then the blue might be your best option, as it comes with white hour markers. It also has an orange second hand that adds even more colour to the dial. If bracelets aren't your thing, then you could always choose the denim strap, which complements their brushed dials. A nod to the original hard-working railmen of the past and their denim jeans attire. It feels like I was fated to own the Railmaster, as it has all the qualities that suit my lifestyle, and yet I was drawn to it for its looks long before I knew what it was capable of. The irony is that I'm still not comfortable wearing it as a daily watch. It's kept for special occasions and relaxed days out. I am very much aware of how much this watch costs, and I'm treating it with kid gloves. But I have been here before, when I stepped up from lower tier watches costing say a few £100 to watches priced between £500 and £1,000, and I am now much more relaxed about wearing those. I don't even mind gathering the occasional scratch and desk dive. It will definitely be worth revisiting the Railmaster in 6 months from now to update you on how we are both getting on. Well, thanks for watching today's review. Let me know if you have any info that I may have missed, or even how you feel or felt about stepping up from one watch tier to the next. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video.